Welcome to the home of Star Witch, where we explore witch lore and astrology for all cunning magical folk. I invite you to join me, your host Mikailah, with a cup of your favourite magical elixir and indulge in some tantalising spellcrafting and witchy conversations. Hello, beautiful magical folk, and it is with great delight that I have my beautiful Witchy Moon friend visiting me, and we are going to be engaging in some delightful conversation today on mirrors and the art of black mirror scrying. Witchy Moon and I are coming to you from a sacred mountain, a medicine mountain, Mount Tambourine, Witchy country. And we've connected over some cups of tea, and we've been out in the garden talking about our grandmothers.
Yes, beautiful.
Reading the tea leaves, and the botanical that wishes to join us today is actually wormwood. So we have the spirit of wormwood with us today. And Witchy Moon was just sharing the spiritual properties of wormwood, which is connected to the green fairy. One of my faves.
So wormwood is basically helps with your psychic ability and enhancing your spell work, and it's very protective. So it comes from the mugwort family. Is that right? Artemisia, yep. And so if you can grow it, it's a beautiful thing to have at your front door or back door, or to use just to pick up and smell. These herbs don't have to be just used for burning or cooking. You can just place somewhere where you feel some protection in your house, or if you're going to have an altar, like we have a little one here today, you can use it that way, and it just smells divine, doesn't it? Yeah, beautiful.
Though it's not just us here today. Before we came into this space and set it up with sacred intention, we really felt our grandmothers with us in spirit, our foremothers, and we were having a great conversation over the kitchen table with ancestral medicine. And it is with deep honor and reverence to respect and give acknowledgement to the elders that have really been the true custodians, the original peoples of the lands of which we live.
Yes, that's
and
right.
Are born. And Witchy Moon, would you like to just share a little bit about yourself, your connection to country here in Australia? So for those listeners that are joining us from all around our beautiful global village, we are actually in Mount Tambourine today in Witchy country, which is part of the Yugambeh language region in Queensland, Australia. So for our locale, for our geographical location, which as witches, we are very centered and grounded as green witches, as part of us and our medicine ways. But over to you, Witchy Moon, your background.
Okay. So I'm Darug. I come from the Sydney Basin area. My family has a long history. My grandmother was an elder in the tribe. Obviously she's passed now, up in the Cloudlands. And but we honor our elders and our song lines and everything that comes through. So spiritually, as part of my witchcraft, was come from my grandmother, and she was very strong in her beliefs. And I was saying to Mikailah earlier, like we were talking about scrying and what forms that she might have done. And I remember there were things like throwing a stone on the water and watching the ripples and reading the ripples, and being from the land, and having the connection to crystals. So quartz crystals were really strong. So when we talk about crystal balls, we talk about the quartz crystals. So yeah, it's a very strong history. Because we come from the southern hemisphere, as witches, our seasons are different over here to wherever you may be. And so as an Aboriginal elder and custodian of the land, we honor the seasons, and that's just part of how I've evolved into my witchcraft and my journey, if you want to label it like that. So yeah, thank you.
And Witchy Moon, that's a really interesting intersectional point with your beautiful ancestry, say from the Northern Hemisphere, and here with your Indigenous, with the original peoples. Seasons are quite different, aren't they? But there are intersectional points.
Yeah, so the seasons in Australia aren't really that defined. Like we've just gone into this season of Imbolc, and Imbolc is about coming out and planting the seeds as you come out of winter. But in Australia, in most of Australia, it's cold, but it's not that cold that we experiencing like say in England where there's snow and you go deep down. We have different seasons, so it's kind of hard sometimes to plan around those seasons and those Sabbaths and things that go on, because we have different seasons which aren't really defined between winter, summer. They kind of, some of them are gelled together. Yeah, so,
and different seasons throughout different geographical locations within our continent as well. Many different languages, many different countries, seasons.
And because of the Aboriginals have different countries and different languages in this vast Australia, it's not just we all speak the same language or the same song lines. Depends if we're north, south, where we are. And even in demographic stages, there's even in where I come from, the Darug in Sydney, there's lots of different languages associated to that New South Wales area. And so that's why when we respectfully honour our custodians of the land, we do the Yugambeh language for this area, but not everyone speaks Yugambeh. And we go by the seasons, as in what's flowering. Winter, we now got the wattle, the cherry blossoms are seasoning. So as a Earth Green Witch or an Aboriginal connected to the land, we go by the seasons, the way the birds fly, all those sort of things come into play, So like just last night, I was sitting on my veranda and this owl just come in, and I was like, oh, what is this wise wisdom that this mother owl is trying to tell me, and just flew right and sat on a chair next to me looking at me. And I was like, wow, I feel really honored. So yeah, it's all about the land, the seasons, what's growing. And yeah, that's how I feel strongly about my witchcraft and how I bring my things in. Yeah.
And before we joined you, because it's taken us a couple of hours to actually come to join you in the sacred space.
Yes.
We were outside around and observing the herbs and the plants that were currently speaking to us and growing. And we were having great discussions around what was growing, what spirits were around. We were speaking about the baneful beauties, belladonna and mandrake and the different seasons, and what else we were talking about as witches. When you actually have a rapport and you cultivate your relationship with the elementals, and I have a strong affinity with Fae, how particular plants will grow easily for you. And then there'll be other times in your life where certain plant spirits won't want to come to the party, will they?
No, that's right.
And so that probably is a point that will stop there, because I can feel another wonderful portal opening up around the elemental of plant medicine and magic. But we are here today with the intention. I invited Witchy Moon to come and share her incredible wisdom around mirrors and black mirror scrying.
Yeah.
And we've got the altar set up here.
Yeah.
But Witchy Moon, what is the difference between mirror scrying and crystal ball scrying?
Okay. So scrying in general is being able to scry and divinate many forms. And the crystal ball scrying is, they're both very ancient, but crystal ball scrying is about seeing your future, past, present, or future, any forms of scrying. They say the word scrying means peeping or looking. So you can scry many different things. Black mirror has got a really based from a like long history. I think it's like 4000 BC, and it was used from very much like the Aztecs or Mayans used black mirror because it was black obsidian, and obviously those countries have a lot of black obsidian, and it was used by lots of psychics and seers that wanted to go to the next dimensions or another dimensions and connect to loved ones that had passed. So it actually picked up this little bit of occult thing of it was only used in those sort of circumstances. Crystal ball, on the other hand, was used by many famous scryers. And one of, the gypsies use the crystal balls, and there's different forms, but people will say to me, well, they use clear crystal or quartz crystals, but you can scry any crystal you have, right? We even have seer crystals, which are I should have brought some along today, but I didn't, but they're like round and they have one flat surface and you can see through them. So you can because crystals are the record keepers. They hold the records, the ASCII records. They hold the records of the earth. They were here before human and animal. So they hold the records. And this is the strength of what crystal scrying is. I don't have a preferred favorite form of scrying because I love to scry anything from the water. And when we talk about that, water scrying is the first form of scrying. And so the most famous scryer would be Nostradamus. He scryed in water with oil. The Egyptians scryed. So it's pretty amazing to think that Nostradamus, who scryed with water, predicted so many, if you believe this, so many things like the Twin Towers, different things that happened. And so scrying is a very magical, sacred thing to do, and everyone can do it. It's a learnt thing, okay? It's not something that only special people can do. It's a learnt thing. You teach yourself. So that's what I'd like to say. So everyone can have a go. They just have to know how to do it and what to go with it.
And that's a beautiful segue because of the rich mythology around the mirror.
Yeah.
And even from an astrological lens, the glyph for Venus is the sacred mirror. There's the threads that connect to Aphrodite, to Hathor.
Yeah.
And
Aphrodite was she is the goddess of the mirror. She was about love and beauty, and she loved to look at herself in the mirror. Hathor's mirror is really for the Egyptians about the sun. So she's placed out there in mythology with the sun disk on the top. They also say that with Hathor that she could see the beauty through one side and anything negative would leave through the other side. So mirrors are an interesting thing to have, and there's so much information we can talk about today about that, but there's so many mythology, even superstition things about mirror. Like I'm sure everyone has heard of those sort of things, and we'll explain those as we go. So yeah.
So maybe let's talk about mirrors.
Yeah.
And the art of mirrors and why they can open up portals. And then what we'll do is we'll come back round to crystal ball and scrying and give the viewers some tips before we close around how you can possibly start being curious and inquisitive for yourself.
Yeah.
So mirrors.
Yeah.
Let's start with mirrors, and we do have some sacred mirrors here.
Yeah.
But over to you, Witchy Moon, because I've got some very interesting stories around mirrors. But
yeah, I do too. So ultimately, mirrors are about they were probably brought through the Egyptian mythology and about looking at your beauty. Now, there was gods and goddesses that wanted to see themselves. But when you think of mirrors, they're not just physically about appearance. They're about sometimes they're about portals. Well, they are about portals. They're opening up portals about your deepest fears. And this is why some people can't look in mirrors or find that they see the reflection back as a mirror of, they've got to look at it and go, wow, what's going on? Like, I don't look good. Some people don't even look in mirrors at all, because they can be scary to some people. Mirrors for me are about beauty. They're about loving myself, working with anything I need to work with, like even if it's shadow working or things like that. And they've been around in the ages. In French Renaissance, they become very, very powerful tools. Do you know what I mean? And women would just sit there with handheld mirrors. And I find handheld mirrors a perfect thing for people to work through different things that come through for them. And if they need to work on acknowledging things in themselves, a beautiful technique I like to use in front of a mirror is Ho'oponopono. And I will use that I use that daily, actually. Mirrors.
Can you, for the listeners, because mirror work can be exceptionally confronting,
yeah.
And also, as I say quite often in the podcast, what we are talking about are very complex, magical topics.
Yeah.
There's some taboo in there as well. There's superstition. And for the listeners or the viewers, please give us the graciousness that in this hour we don't have the capacity to dive deep. So Witchy Moon and I offer individual programs and trainings and mentorship and workshops that really dive deep into a lot of these themes, and we give it the spaciousness and the reverence and the respect that these it's like the composition of the history, the application, the practical use, and the individuation of these sacred tools desires and deserves. So mirrors carry spirits within them. Would you like to share for the listeners a basic ritual that you do that you mentioned, but also the spirit of mirrors?
Okay, spirit of mirrors mean different things for different people. Mirrors are portals. There's no denying that.
And portals are a big breath.
Big breath. So portals are openings to different dimensions, different worlds, different journeys for people. And so they're not to be lightly just opened and closed without respect to what they do. So I will explain that a bit later, how to use your mirrors, how to open and close your mirrors and to remove things from your mirrors. Mirrors were often used to communicate to the dead, right? And communicate to spirit. In Native American times, they used mirrors for soul retrieval. And so if you've ever done any soul retrieval work or past life regressional stuff, they do use mirrors a lot. And in different cultures, again, they used it. They would bury their dead with mirrors so that they would be passed on. So the Mayans were one of that. You did that, and the Egyptians as well. And some people never used mirrors at all. They would just cover them up. So if someone passed, people would, I don't know if you know any superstitions about mirrors, but people would cover up their mirrors if someone passed in case they didn't do their soul journey. Sorry, I'm hitting that then. Their soul journey, they didn't pass on, especially Jewish faith. They would do that as well. And I know my grandmother she would do certain things with her mirror as well. So if there was a thunderstorm, we would have to catch blankets and cover all the mirrors in the house, you know, for fear that the thunder lightning, the thunder god, would come down through the mirror. So there's many things, like we hear superstitions about mirror as in like you break a mirror and it's 7 years bad luck. Well, in some cultures, I think it's the Chinese, might be Japanese, I should know better, but I think it's 13 years. But there is a story that if you broke a mirror and you crush that mirror up and you put it in a river that flows south, right, you would only have bad luck for 7 days. But let's think about this with mirrors, right? When we do any forms of scrying and with mirrors, we must have a question and an answer.
So an intention.
An intention.
An intention, and energy follows intent, is one of the foundational principles of witchy magic.
Yeah,
I feel it's different for different individuals, but
it's an intention. Principles. It's a principle of if you look into a mirror and you're having these dark thoughts, then you might have dark appearances for you. Do you know what I mean? But if you look in this mirror with this intention of, I'm going to have an amazing day, my hair looks awesome, you know, I look fabulous, then that's what you will put out in your intention. So any forms of scrying should be done with intention. So that's one of my first hot tips. You know, you must have intention and manifest what you're looking for. And that's very important in any forms of magic, especially divination. So I always like to say to people when they come for a reading with me, have you got a question and answer that you want? And they will look at me and they were like, an answer? And I said, well, there must be something you have intended to ask that question. And it really puts people into focus to think about, oh, okay, yeah, you know, because remember, you can manifest and put intentions into anything. You can go to a reader and they can say to you, you turn left, and then you turn right. You've changed that cosmic energy. So it's really important to, you know, allow yourself the intention of what you put out there, you know, and that's very important in magic and when you do any forms of divination.
And free will comes into that.
Free will, you know, karmic energies is another one for me too. Free will is if someone asks a question or sets an intention, then they're opening themselves up for that experience. If you give them something that they're not ready for, or they're not willing to accept, or they don't they're not needing, then that will be a totally different free will event. You know, I don't like unfacilitated advice. This is one of my things as a witch. You know, I'm happy for everyone to give me advice and acknowledge that things come up with me or with my clients. But if it's not free will and intention set, I don't want to hear it.
And that gives us permission. So there are certain principles around energetic exchange, and we've moved into the field of being a scryer, a diviner, a seer, an oracle, a tea leaf reader, and for Witchy Moon, serving your clients, we're talking in the exchange that happens when clients come with an intention to have a crystal ball reading or a tarot reading or a tea leaf reading, that there is a self-inquiry, because if you're already seeking to ask a question, you're going outside of yourself, which at times is part of the magic of asking a wise woman for healing insights rather than advice. But you always need to take it back to yourself and check how centered and robust you are to receive particular information. And there are a lot of charlatans out there.
There are.
So being very curious and aware of going somewhere reputable. And you may not always have a great experience. And that is where you scatter it like leaves to the wind. If ever you hear anything that doesn't resonate or really disrupts you with your energy for the day, if you can, scatter it like leaves to the wind, let it go. This is all part of practice as well of, you know, you might get some here and, you know, we have beautiful bay leaves or eucalyptus leaves, and you can write it on a leaf and scatter it. On this note, because we do go off on some great places and tangents, it's not uncommon for us to emerge from a 5-hour portal of conversation.
That is true.
If a client hears something that really disrupts their energy field, what would you suggest? I mean, you can have showers, you can release. What's a simple releasing exercise if someone has offered you, be it in an exchange with a reader, something that really disturbs your energetic equilibrium? So,
like we're here today, that's an energy exchange. Whenever you're involved with anything like that, that's an energy exchange. So for me, it's all about clearing energy. It's about refocusing this energy, because you're bringing something from the subconscious down into the 3D world. So you're actually pulling things out. So for me, I always like to just clear energy, whether it's grounding on Mother Earth, doing some white lighting, if I like to, with protection, building up circle protection, even clearing. I do this thing where I go like this and just clear any out. It's like 2 scissors. Sorry, I'm doing it a bit fast. And just cutting all ties. Now, people call that cord cutting, whatever it may be for you guys. I like it to be transmuting the energy, clearing the energy. On a daily basis at evenings, I will grab eucalyptus leaves, because eucalyptus is connected to me and my elders, and I would like to shower with it, and I will have those intentions in my words. So I will say, everything of my day just goes down the drain. I don't need it no more, let it go. And so it's all about your intention of clearing that energy. We also have a duty of care, you know, as readers, and whether we're clairvoyants, mediums, or card readers, we have a duty of care of what we tell our clients, and that's very important. You know, if things come up for you and someone's sitting in front of you in a fragile situation, you're not obviously going to say, hey, I seen this and someone's going to pass, or I seen this and blah. You would really take your time and gently just move in it and ask questions and evolve it from there, because some people aren't open up, and it's duty of care for clients. It's really important to make sure our clients leave, or my clients leave me, feeling good about themselves. And if there's something that come up, then we'll work through that. That's very important. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is the responsibility and duty of care, being a reader or a therapist or a healer, when you're engaging and offering medicine gifts into your service. But also, if you are seeking out a reader or an oracle or a therapist, to know that there are particular practices that you can also do for yourself. So coming back to Witchy Moon, if someone wanted to explore, they might have found a crystal ball for themselves, or they've found a mirror. They've been gifted a mirror. Maybe it's been an heirloom that's been handed down through the generations. You actually receive your mirror, say as an heirloom, then, or you find a beautiful antique one in a shop or at the markets. Speak to me about the energetic history of a particular mirror that might come into your sphere.
So you might pick up a beautiful antique mirror or a crystal ball, or you might be gifted from a relative a mirror. It comes with energetic energy of everyone that's owned it. Okay, so it's really important to clear that energy. How you clear that energy is, there's a number of ways, but obviously important using sage and to clear that energy around it, lighting a candle and sitting with that intentions. And an important thing for me, when I first get mirrors or crystal balls, I actually cover them. So I cover them up so no one else is seeing in them. If I'm using that tool for magical purposes and it's just for mine, I don't let other people use it. I don't let other people connect to it. And if they do use it, then I clear that. This also can be done mirrors with full moons, which is a beautiful thing, because it's like leaving a bowl of water out and seeing the moon reflection. There's another form of scrying. So putting your mirror out into the full moon, clearing the energy, setting intention, saying some words that mean what you need. I've also buried them in the earth. And when I get a new mirror ball, my hubby hates this. I put it in the bed with me and I sleep with them for a few days. And could you imagine this big crystal ball just rolling around in the bed? It becomes quite funny. But so with any of my magical tools, it's about making them mine. And if they've come from someone else, I need to clear that energy. And when I'm using them in a practice, I clear them after every reading as well. So that's another form. I will cover my ball up. I will clear the intentions. I will say words, whether it's I'm calling in the fates of the realms, I'm calling in my ancestors, my spirit guides, to clear the energy forth. And I have done readings before where I've looked in the ball and seen nothing and gone, wow, okay. So that's obviously I'm not meant to use that form of divination for that person, so that can happen too. And then reflectively, with your mood and how you're feeling, you can see different things in the balls and the mirror as well. So it's very important to make sure you do some form of cleansing and clearing, even if it's a bathing with a ritual before you use anything, and just clearing that energy. You can use a herbal water, so you can use a wash, because quartz is quite okay to have that, and the black obsidian as well. So, and because black obsidian is really dark, it does smear a lot, so I do tend to not let people pick it up too much because it's got all fingerprints and stuff and that. So,
and that's a wonderful segue to move from crystal ball scrying, mirror work. And I just want to say that for myself personally, and this, so over the years I have worked with mirrors that they have been cursed by the black magi of Persia. And so a lot of my therapeutic work as a counselor as well, but body dysmorphia, with you spoken to Witchy Moon, and we just touched on this a little bit around your natural beauty, your inner beauty. Your eyes may not see that beauty reflected back to you in the image. So I just really want to give space to that is a whole different it's almost like a portal. We won't open that up, but just for the listeners, that is something that is I go into that in the Venus and Nana star. So we just want to say that there are some very interesting side notes to witchcraft, sorcery, and mirrors.
It's quite a big field, because they say that people use mirrors to find knowledge or connect to their spirit guides, or for healing and self-improvement. That's what we use it for. And when we're doing self-healing, we use the mirrors, because mirrors are a great transmitter and receiver, and that's really important to know, people. And when we talk about going into astral planes and stuff, and shamanic journeys, mirrors are used quite often.
Yes. And is this the two-sided mirrors, the black obsidian mirrors, or just your normal
mirror?
Okay. These are not normal mirrors, people, by the way. What we have in the background are very incredible mirror spirit beings.
They are, and they become your own. So I like that, what you were saying about what we see in the mirror. It's like going to a fun house and seeing different mirrors that give you different shapes. Mum, we would all love a mirror that made us look, beautifully and slim. But so mirrors are really hard for some people to use. And when I teach people how to use black mirrors or crystal balls, some will get the crystal ball, right? Because they look at the crystal ball as light and fluffy, and then they look at the black mirror as something dark, right? Only because it has an occult history behind it. People like little Dr. Moody, he used it, like I was saying before, and he used it. His main purpose of using it was to connect to people that had passed.
And this is the black obsidian.
It's a black obsidian.
And Dr. Moody is an occultist?
Yes, he was from England. He was with Dr. D, and Dr. D was the psychic who looked after Elizabeth I. So he would predict things for her and do things like that. So that's pretty amazing.
And an astrologer.
Yeah.
So even Victorian spiritualism is richly embedded with these tools, isn't it? These magical tools.
Yeah, that's right. So I always have a nice wash for my mirrors. Like I make up a nice wash with, it might just have some sage in it or some oils, and then just clear it off, but yeah, they're very sacred and they're very important. And another note, it is in all cultures, mirrors are there. And even in feng shui, mirrors are there. Like we put mirrors in our house in feng shui for opening up. People say don't put mirrors in your bedroom because mirrors are the portals to the other realms. And in those hours of sleep, if you have a mirror facing your bed, you can just have portal energy of spirit, and whether they're trickster spirits or what, coming through, and you might have different dreams and different vivid things. So mirror placement in your house is quite important. And that's something I look at as well. Like where I put my mirrors in my witchy room is important for me. And my black mirror doesn't see much light, so it's kept in the dark a lot. And my crystal balls are kept in a case when I'm not using them, so that I'm not leaving them open to other people's ancestors, spirit guides, familiars, or plant medicine coming through. So it's very important to look at these mirrors as more as just a mirror. And so a lot of us look at a mirror as, I'm going to brush my hair or brush my teeth, but mirrors are very important.
And that brings us to the intention. And we're very much kitchen witches, aren't we? In the way that it doesn't have to have a lot of pomp and ceremony.
No.
Bringing mindfulness into your day-to-day practice, your everyday magic is what Witchy Moon and I love.
Yes.
And, just keeping this in mind, next time you're in the bathroom where your mirror is, it's like there are sacred mirrors because they've been dedicated and imbued with mindful intention, and you cover them. Your black mirror is your black obsidian mirror. But then you have, when we're out in shopping centers, there's airports, bringing that mindfulness of awareness with your intention to these hold and are and can be portals to other times and places, depending on the history, bringing us back round to the history of when you inherit a mirror, the history of May or people who have previously owned. And they can be looking at their reflection, owning the mirror, and not being consciously aware of what's being projected into the mirror. You don't have to be a magical, cunning witch, or however, you don't have to identify in that way. It's not around, what's the word I'm looking for? It's Moon in Scorpio today, so I'm not very well articulated.
We've been talking for hours. We've been laughing so hard. So.
We're in this magical cauldron, aren't we? With this Moon in Scorpio, it's very deep. This deep water of Scorpio.
And we're right at the sun, aren't we?
Yeah,
beautiful.
Being recorded on Sunday, and it was the hour of the sun. But the history, the energetic history of inheriting a mirror or finding a mirror in a market, or
this is really important to clear that energy and make it your own. So you can do something as I like to call a protection bubble, and that's about putting your protection in and your light into the mirror. So if you're going, for me personally, when I'm using my mirror in for readings and spiritual, I will put my power into the ball. Right. I also do this thing where I let my client on the day hold the ball, close their eyes, and we'll say some words about the fates and the worlds and put their energy into the ball. So this is important about clearing the energy around the ball, white lighting your energy and putting your energy into the ball. So And we'll talk a bit later about once that energy in the ball, you have to, or into the mirror, you then remove that energy. Okay.
So we'll make sure that we do some practical care.
Yeah.
Whether you are new to this,
yeah,
exploring, curious, inquisitive, or where you are actually maybe moving more into offering this as a service to family or friends, or just, you know, let us come back to the black obsidian mirror, because we touched on that, and I'm finding it interesting. It's very curious, this thread of Witchy Moon and I, because I'll try to enter into a particular line of conversation and we'll get pulled out in other ways. And that's not from that etheric energy of the air. It's actually energetic portals that throughout this whole conversation I've been trying to enter into black obsidian mirrors, and I haven't been granted access. So let us now try with the deepest respect. Are you feeling this too, Witchy Moon? Have you been noticing and sensing that with this moon in Scorpio? So I want to bring honor now. And this is what we're talking about sacredness and intent to, because I'm feeling the spirit of the black obsidian mirror. And so now I am respectfully requesting listeners to invite, with permission, the spirit of the black obsidian mirror into this sacred space with Witchy Moon as the custodian to talk about this knowledge and wisdom.
There's something I have a little like incantation I like to say with the black mirror, so I'm going to just read it to you. I like to say these words, and this is just about me calling in what I need. I always say, moon and ancestors, mirror and stone, open my mind's eye to see. As above, so below, as within, so without. To the left of me, to the right of me, hear me, love me, bless me. And it's something I really use all the time with the black mirror, because I do feel blessed and honored that the black obsidian mirrors, and it doesn't have to be just a mirror. You can get black obsidian balls. You can get different shapes of black obsidians. There's even the obsidian knives. Here I have a beautiful crystal that was made for me with a crystal ball and the black obsidian. So yeah, the black obsidian, because it's got such different darkness around it, just from mythos and different things that have come along, which may not be true or not. So do your own research on this, guys, afterwards. But it has a strong history of being a cult, right? So people go, oh, I'm not doing it. It's a bit like having a Ouija board, right? And so it's a really powerful stone. You know, the black obsidian is a volcanic rock. So it was here for such a long time. And there's many stories about the volcanic rock of the black obsidian from Apache tear stones, which mean, you know, the story of the Apache tear stones is that the Apaches were run off the cliffs and the women and children were at the bottom crying. Their tears cried so much they turned the black obsidian to these stones. The Mayans, again, strong. They have a lot of knives and blades which they used in ritual, and they always had the black obsidian for soul retrieval of their people. So when anyone was ever buried, as I said before, they were buried with the black obsidian. Black obsidian is also protection stone. It's grounding, right? It's a stone that I feel strongly about. I'm passionate about. I have big chunks of it everywhere. Be careful, it is sharp, right? And the interesting part about that being sharp is why the Mayans used it, because they used it in forms of sacrifice and stuff. And when we talk about scrying, the earliest form of scrying was water scrying, but it was water scrying with blood, right? And
blood drops in the water?
Drops in the water.
And from
using the sharpness of the black obsidian. So it's quite interesting, the whole culture around black obsidian. For me, black obsidian is about opening myself up, protecting myself, and allowing myself to sit with things that I need to work through. And that's what I love about black obsidian.
Shadow work, would you say?
Shadow work, yeah, very much.
And so how would you just briefly,
Yeah.
again, describe shadow work.
Shadow work for me is about things that sit in my subconsciousness or sit within me that I've either boxed up, fenced up, put things up in front of it that I think I'm going to deal with that later, right? Shadow work is about balancing my light and dark. So it's about bringing things up. Everyone can't be all happy. And there's times that we sit in these anxiety moments or moments that we're not sure what it is, and we're feeling low at a point of our lives. These are the shadow things that I need to work on, and they're very important for me. Shadow work is a whole new topic. It could be things of traumatic experiences that have happened, your timelines, past lives, lots of things. For me, shadow is about acknowledging the imperfections that I hold or things that I am worried about or concerned about, and pulling them out and dealing with those things and sitting with it. If I don't sit with that shit, I'm not going to get rid of it. Sorry.
I know, that's fine. And it's around personal lines of self-inquiry.
Yeah.
But also, I suppose, because I'm a transpersonal counselor and we've done different trainings, is that if anything gets too much or too overwhelming, please reach out to a qualified, credible, professional therapist or counselor. Yeah.
And I will tell all my clients, I am no psychiatrist and I'm no doctor. So do not stop seeing those people. I'm not a naturopath either, but I love to play with herbs, as we talked. But if you are feeling that way, reach out to those proper people, reach out. And there's hotlines out there, and there's different things that people can reach out there. Because you're not alone. You're never alone. There's always someone out there. So that's something I want you to really feel strongly about. You're not alone. And another thing I like to do, and I think I do it a lot with my sisters, is dropping from this space in my head into my heart. And I think when I come from that different space, I look at things differently and enlighten. And I love to journal, a whole different thing. But journaling is about taking everything from here, putting it here, owning it realistically, looking at it and going, wow. And I will get all my clients to journal or just to write things down. When we talk about the journaling part of it, it's about acknowledging things that come up. It could be to do with the moon, what your flow is with cycles, different things that go on. So journaling is a very important part of shadow work and acknowledging things that aren't sitting right with you. People say to me, well, what do I do with it once I write it? And I think, well, there's lots of things you can do with it. But I don't encourage people to keep revisiting it. And that's important. And this is with the scrying as well, right? If you keep revisiting something, you create something. So if you stand in front of a mirror and say you see a ghost, and you keep saying that and saying that and saying that, you create an entity. So this is important about journaling, about mirror work as well. I say to them, just write it to get it out of here and put it back to Mother Earth, burn it. I mean, don't burn your house down. But yeah, burn it in a safe, proof dish and bury it in the earth or blow it in the wind. Let it go.
Or sometimes if you've got a large mirror, writing it on the mirror and then wiping it off. I think there's some special... lipstick is wonderful. And there are some special pens that you can use that come off glass or mirrors.
Write it up there. Like if you're standing in front of the mirror and you're feeling some anxiety for whatever reason that's surrounding you, write it up there. And then as you wipe it off, it's cleared. It's like when your mirror fogs up, in the mirror, and it fogs up, and I'll get out there and I'll write in it. So when you learn to scry, you scry everything. So it's not just mirrors, tea leaves, crystal balls, runes, divination. It's I will even stand in the shower and I see words come up on the shower from the steam and the water. I can be sitting in a public place. It's sometimes a bit of a hazard. And on the toilet, and I look at tiles and I'll think, oh, look at that shape. Or look at that, I can see in it. Being in nature and seeing a face in a tree. Scrying is such an amazing tool.
Yes.
That it's in everything. It's like our earliest onsets of scrying is laying out as children and looking at the clouds and seeing shapes. Oh, I can see a rabbit. So scrying is really strong part of us. It's part of who we are. But some of us just need to develop it more or go with it. But yeah.
Or we're naturally inclined to go into altered states of consciousness. I can think of our more exploratory younger years and looking at clouds. And I remember you also reading photographs of mine with the smoke of the incense coming up.
Yeah. So flames, this flame here is a very important forms of scrying. There's so many forms of scrying. There's candle wax, there's fire scrying, water scrying, oil scrying, which is done by the ancient Egypts. But you can scry anything. So the most modern form of scrying, do you want to hear what it is? It's your mirrors. It's like, it's your phones, people. Your phones, your TV screens, the laptop that's in front of us. You might look at something and see in a phone just different shapes. These are our newest in this generation of scrying. So a lot of people cover them up. So I got to Mikailah's today and I was out in her lounge room. We were having a chat. I look over at her TV and she's got a blanket over it, right?
Oh, I'm Torian. It's actually a beautiful Indian sari.
Oh, well, sorry. I was reading a blanket. I didn't, it was beautiful, actually. If I could show you a picture, I would, but beautiful. But it was covered up.
Or a blanket will do the job.
Whatever you got. So, this is why when we have these phones and stuff, we should face them down, right? Because we're actually reflectively seeing different things through it and distorted images and stuff that may not sit right with us.
And they're actually portals as well.
They are. That's what I want. The point of that is they are modern day portals, and people go, oh, but it's not a mirror or it's not a crystal ball, but it's a portal. It's an opening. Think about your phone as a portal these days. They hear what you say. They pop things up. And I'm not going to go on a tangent about it, right? But just so you know, they are the modern day, the TV screens and all these screens and technology, they really mess with your headspace when you are trying to connect through the scrying, because they have different sorts of reflections and colors and resolutions, so it does,
and frequencies. So just on that point, to cleanse and clear your mobile phone, which is your modern day, one of the modern day mirrors. Obviously don't cleanse them with water.
No.
Common sense, people, hey. But what I do is, if I'm burning some frankincense or keep your phone going through the smoke, or even just using your hand with intention over the screen, like beautiful Witchy Moon's cleansing or invoking intentions. Were those your words, by the way? So give credit where credit's due for the words and the prayers and the intentions and spells that are being spoken, but using your hand as an energetic cleansing tool over your phone, or putting it out in moonlight with the intention. Because they are electronic devices.
They are. And your hands hold your DNA, right? So they, when you're exchanging things and energy, if you have affirmations or positivity coming through, and when you are a healer and you learn to think, you feel it in your hands, your extremities. So placing your hand on your phone and saying, having a deep breath and just taking a moment to get yourself into that space where you're sending the energy back to your phone, So this is not mine. I don't own this, right? I might own the phone, but I don't own the energy that's coming through, especially when you're seeing things pop up and different things. So people don't realize how much those reflective surfaces are mirrors of today's society. Back prehistorically or in the BCs were the waters and nature. We were in nature, and now we're covered by technology. So it's very important to represent that in this day and age.
Such important points. So the practical uses of mirrors. Is there anything else that you'd like to, we could speak more, but would you like to cover space, and for the listeners, if they want to explore, if they're called into this, is now a good time to talk about practical uses, the possible dangers, or would you like to do that now, Witchy Moon?
Yeah, I'd love to. So possible uses of mirrors are looking at past, present, and future, connecting to loved ones, connecting to our inner self, so that we just talked about the shadow side. And there's different ways we can use mirrors, and it's very important, but when we use mirrors and we're enhancing ourselves with spells and stuff, that we use protection. Now, I briefly talked about how we cleanse and create a gifted mirror, or we find one in an antique shop, or someone passes on to us. But when we're looking for a mirror or a crystal ball, go with something that feels right for you. So it's all about how you feel. It's like when people say, what will I pick? Well, if you feel the energy, because they are energy beings, so you feel that energy in your hands, then it will feel right. If it doesn't feel right, move along. Right? That's very important. So whenever I do mirror or scrying work, I always set my intention, like we said, and I always create a circle, an environment, a space where I feel safe and protected, right? In that space, like we said, we might have herbs, or we'll burn frankincense or myrrh, or whatever our and I might set up crystal grids. So it's important to have a protective space. We put ourselves protectively into the ball to create all the mirror, to create the magic that we're going to see. So we may use our ancestors, but when we finish using that ball, we've kept our energy in the ball, so we need to remove our energy. So something I like to do is like acknowledge my connection to the ball, thank and honor my ancestors, my spirit guides, and I like to just pass that on and close my energy down. So I actually remove my energy from that ball. I will say I remove my energy back to me, and then I'll pass it down through some form of meditation or words, and clear the energy and ground and center myself. So it's very important whenever you're creating a space around scrying with these two beautiful tools, is to make sure that you create a circle to protect yourself, and you clear that energy and close it down. So there's many forms of doing that. I'm not going to tell you which is the right or wrong way, and but you can ask questions if you like, and we can get back to you. But yeah, it's really important to close and open your circle and keep that space for you, and so my mirrors and balls that I use just for clients are never used for anything else, right? And they're protected. And so mirrors reflect energy, right? So it's important to clear that energy, because if you don't, you're going to reflect energy back towards you. And if it's you have a client that comes in and it's there's chaos in their life and they're feeling that energy into the ball, then that's going to reflect, and that's an important thing about reflecting. There's a couple of little spells I like to do with mirrors. So we were talking about a double-sided mirror really quick. I've got one here, and this is my
these are one of my faves, and apparently
you need one.
Yes.
Double-sided mirror
for the fae,
right? It's probably a bit
there's a reason.
Fingerprints, right? Double-sided mirrors are good for reflection. So when we talk about the fae and the elementals and the sylphs, and they're mischievous little creatures, right? And they're not these happy little flicky fairies, and you can talk about that with someone else later, but they bring different energy in, and they say that a double-sided mirror will reflect the energy back that they bring towards you. So they also say in the fae world not to use a mirror at night, right? So that's very important. And another thing about mirrors is you amplify your mirror with your energy, and you can send things back and forth. So there's a little thing I do with two mirrors. If I want to protect someone really important in my family, I will put them between two mirrors, right? And I'll put their name, on the mirror, and I'll put the two mirrors together. If I want to block someone's who's might not be sending me the energy that I need, or they're just being a bit chaotic in my life. And I think, you know, I will do 2 outwards facing mirrors, and I put their names between that. Right. And there's
so just to clarify, the reflective mirror goes inwards.
So 2 mirrors inwards, right?
Yes, so the reflective is
the mirror
inwards.
with a name inside is for protection.
Yes.
Right. And then 2 mirrors outwards with the name in between reflects their energy back to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I love to use quite often. I just think, you know, so it's important to, you know, be really strong with your intentions of how you're going to use your mirrors. You know, they're not something lightly just to go, oh, look, this shiny mirror, like, you know, little bowerbirds, shiny birds or shiny balls. It's really important to protect your magic around your mirrors and scrying. Yeah.
And this is if you're following a magical pathway, isn't it?
For sure. Because there's so much, and you can read about it and learn about different things about it, but mirrors have a long history, right? And that you can create your own black mirror, even if you want to do that and not buy one. That's important as well. But yeah, they have a long history of bringing just energies in and keeping the between the realms things open. So they're not things to be lightly with. And you know, some people here today who are probably listening will go, I don't even look in a mirror, you know.
It's a really interesting point, because in our capitalistic society, how much is invested, the billions of dollars into women's beauty, and the distraction and a lot of these things we're speaking into with modernity, social conditioning, and someone, you know, just think about if that whole industry collapsed, if we loved ourselves enough and weren't so fixated on physical beauty, especially the feminine physical beauty, and came back to really working with the sacredness of mirrors and seeing inner beauty. And who it was in classical Greek mythology,
Narcissus.
And what would you like to share a little bit about the origins?
Greek mythology was a young boy who really, really loved himself, and he spent many hours in front of a pool of water, a pond. I'm not sure if it's a pool of water or a pond, and that he manifested himself into a beautiful flower, and that flower is the daffodil or
jonquil.
Jonquil.
And what was fascinating, when Linda Witchy Moon and myself, Mikailah Rachael, were sitting around the kitchen table, this is how we work intuitively, engaged in our practices. So as witches, we just don't intellectualize and learn. We actually have engaged in body practices that we've done for quite a long time. But take a guess at what flowers were actually in the bowl on the table drying, because I had them for in bulk, and for the viewers that are listening, I've actually got a whole series of dried jonquils and daffodils. Unbeknownst to me that Witchy Moon was coming to talk about this. So this is how the magic weaves through the seen and the unseen worlds when you're connected into magic.
And connected to the seasons, to the elements. You know, the elements are such an important, like the tea we're drinking today is air, right?
Ether.
So it's connecting to communication. And wordsmiths, being able to speak your truth, saying what you need. You know, just because you read something or hear something, you've got to do your own research. That's what I say to everybody. Don't believe everything I say, but acknowledge that that's my part of my journey. But look at nature around you. You cannot go out there and say, oh, I see the wind, because you can see, feel, and taste the wind. you can see the trees, you can see the plants growing. And so being witchcraft is about seasons. It's about Mother Nature. It's about Pachamama, getting part of her and evolving with that. And, you know, and the stars and the moon, like, oh,
but these, as cyclic beings,
yeah,
nature changes. So this is the beauty of being fluid and not static, is that the more you learn and embody and engage in these practices, you can change and morph and shapeshift.
Shapeshift. I love a good shapeshift.
So do I. I love good shapeshifters.
Me too.
So with the practices, and working with mirrors in this way,
it opens up a whole different realm for you. You know, I say to people, when you set your intentions and you manifest, soften your eyes. And they'll go, soften your eyes. What do you mean? I mean, soften your eyes. Look at it through not rose-colored glasses, but soften your eyes, that you're not so intense. People pick up these mirrors and balls and are like looking at them, and they're like, I don't see anything. You know, and I say, just breathe in and just sit with the elements and sit with you and what's within you, and just soften your eyes and focus, you know. And it's a really good tool to have in any sort of magic, you know. And we were saying about the different magical tools you use with divination. There's so many, you know. Like you were saying, I love tarot, oracles, I love runes. I mean, I love bones. Right. So I love bones and feathers. So I do feather readings.
Yes.
And I love doing casting bones. And because they all come from Mother Earth. They all come from the animals and the things that here. So if it's nature, I cannot walk past a feather. I don't know if any of you guys can, or a stick or herb or something. I just go, oh, look at that. That was left here for a gift.
And also, you know, it doesn't matter if you can't scry. If you like, I know amazing people that can look at a stone or a crystal and see visually representations of, like, which I would call spirits that are in that crystal, be it a woman or a young child or a bird, or you know, we're all gifted in different ways, and so
it's evolving.
Yes,
that's how I like to think about it. It evolves. Like, people say to me when they come, even for palmistry, our fingerprints, right, never change, but our lines in our hands do, right?
Absolutely.
It's very important. So we evolve, you know what I mean? And that's what I like about scrying and divination. It evolves how you evolve. And that's why anyone, you know, you don't have to be the great Nostradamus or the great scryer or have those things, but you just need to connect to self and connect to, you know, to heart sense and to source, whatever that may be.
And that brings up fate and destiny, that we are free. We do have free will, and maybe not everything's actually written in stone. No. So you do have the opportunity, I feel.
I do too.
To change your destiny.
I do too. People will say to me, but isn't it written in my timeline or in my records? Well, maybe you were born through that line of that, but everyone can change. It's human nature for us to change, and our connection to spirit, you know. It's like people that say to me, I have this animal totem, but they're gone, and now I've got different totems. And I go, they change, they evolve. You might have a totem as a mother, there might be a bear because you're a brave mother bear, and then you might have other animals come through. So we evolve spiritually, and this is what it means about opening yourself up to these things. You evolve and things transcend. So I don't think anything's set in line, Mikailah. I think you can change and move, shift, and do everything. I think that's really important.
Okay. And I just got a flash of, you know, just having a bowl with some water in it, and even just offering a prayer or intention to the spirit of water, because that is the original scrying, isn't it?
Yeah, the water element. It was the original form of scrying, you know. Like, think about people in Norwegian countries. They ice scry. Now that's cool, right? I've run a workshop where we've had people and we've frozen all these like slabs of ice, and we scry it. So you can snow scry. You don't have to have flowing water, guys. Do you know what I mean? You can scry. So those countries do these of ice scrying, and it's amazing tool, because if you look at the ice, it's got all ripples and things through it, and it's amazing what comes through. So yeah, water, and we are made up of water. I'm not going to quote the percentage. Our land mass is made up of water. So water is naturally we survive as beings on this earth, because this is why we don't, not other lands or other planets, because there's no water. So water is intuitive part of us, and the womb, water and that connection for feminine and women, and that connection to the womb of the water. So water is a really powerful tool to scry. One of my faves.
And also, any cyclic being, because we are, as human beings, made up of around 75%. So we are so in tune with the waxing and waning lunar cycle, which in astrology is connected to water. We're recording this on a moon in Scorpio day, which is deep, dark, mystical occultism as well, honoring the sacred esoteric arts. So on that, we've covered mirrors and black mirror scrying, and the difference between crystal balls and mirrors, the history and modernity with our phones and TVs, and a little bit about the mythology. We've covered about portal opening and the dangers of mirrors, and just so any last words of reflection or in your wisdom and eldership.
Okay, thank you. No, I do feel that's okay. I'm embracing it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Right, that's simple as that. Set your intentions, right? If something comes through or something doesn't feel right with you, go with your gut instinct. It probably isn't right. Do you know what I mean? Because when we're talking briefly about portals, and that's a whole different thing to go through, when these things are open and not shut down, we allow ourselves to be open to trickster spirits and spirit things that come through. I always say stay grounded, right? Protect your own energy, right? Let everyone else run their race, right? Don't take on everything on board, because you think of a house mirror, right? And you might have one bathroom, right? And you might have 6 members in your house. Every person in that house is using that mirror, right? So you might go into the mirror one day and think, oh, look at me, I feel terrible. I don't feel right. But that could be your partner, or one of your children, or someone who lives with you that has gone and used that mirror and had these things. Be aware of those thoughts and energies, but clear them. Then that makes you just be aware of the people around you and what energy you're pulling in. And that's very important.
And it's very empowering. You actually have the capacity to clear this. And likewise, if you are living in a unit or an apartment, or you're renting, the history of that mirror might hold something, but you've got the capacity to clear this.
Clear that. Yeah. It's even to do with the land that you're on, that's very sacred. But like you were saying earlier, you go on the shopping center and there might be 100 women that use a mirror in a shop, right? So they're trying on dresses, right? And you get in there, oh God, this light's not good. This mirror's not working. I can't look at it, right? You try it on, you think it looks amazing. You go home, you go, oh my God, why did I buy that? Right? It just doesn't look the same. Remember that not everyone's mirrors that you see or around you have the same energy. So set that energy in you, clear that energy out. It only takes minutes to set the intention and put it out there.
Oh, brilliant. Because we are actually with our eyes holding the sacredness. We actually hold the sacredness of how we see the world around us. And this is really important.
It's very
empowering intention and setting. So it's like, you've got this.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, that's my motto. You've got this. And that's something I use all the time. I will actually write it on poster stickers and put it around. You've got this, you know, and I think that you do. Everyone has the ability inside to go, okay, because I mean, obviously you find your sisters or your connections, and you're here today because you're like-minded people listening to this podcast. And that's awesome. But there's people out there that, you know, it's like 100 people might see one thing, but not everyone sees it the same. This is the thing with the eyes. Do you know what I mean? But then here's another tip for you guys. You don't just see it, you feel it, right? So it's about feeling that energy too. You know, you might feel tingly in a crystal, you know, but you look at it and you see nothing. It's not just about that. We've got all these senses. Let's use them. You know, smell, touch. People go, are you smelling a rock? And I go, yeah.
Yeah. and you know, we've got clairvoyance to see.
Yes.
Clairsentience to sense.
Yes.
Clairaudience to hear. And claircognizance to just know. So all of this is so many amazing explorations in its own right. And this is where I would encourage you, if you are feeling a connection to beautiful Witchy Moon and what she has spoken into today, to find her on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Witchy Moon. I also have an email address, which I've had since I was 18, and it's witchypoo. Yeah, POO, witchypoo.linda@gmail.com. So I've had that since I was 18. Everyone laughs at me, but yeah, it's.
And Linda is LINDA.
Yep. And I'm currently working from a beautiful place here at Jimboomba on Mullanjali land. And but yeah, if you contact me on those things, I'm about to set up things to do online, which is I'm here today doing it. Oh, I just rocked the candle.
So online courses,
yes, and
you can contact Witchy Moon through her email, through Instagram. I just want to say that today these have been generalized themes, and please do not discredit the huge range of emotions and complexities of the human experience and the magical occult lineage of what we're touching in on. This is just a wonderful indulgence and conversation that two witches are having.
And we do get lost. Like we'll walk out of here 5 hours later and go, where did the time go?
Where are we? Oh my goodness, the sun has set and the moon has risen.
Maybe I should get home.
And so thank you so much, beautiful magical folk, for joining us. Thank you, Witchy Moon.
I'm so honored to be here today and to share with you. Oh my God. I'll give you a
big hug. Watch the flame. We've got
the flame's okay.
The sacred fire, giving honor to the reverence of wormwood and the mirrors.
Yeah.
So go well, beautiful ones.
Yeah. Live a magical life.
Live a magical life. You are the magic.
You are. Yeah.
Much love.
Bye.
Thank you, all you magical cunning folk, for joining me here and sharing our precious time together. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel for magical folk, and follow me on any platform where it is that you have discovered me. See you in the wild magical woods.